I'm so happy. God blessed me with the best lawyer on earth. And with you guys, with the supporters, without you, I would not be able to stand tall.
Head on over to saveartur.com to make a donation today to help fund the legal battles that are ahead of him. Now, you're also eligible for a tax-deductible receipt with that donation as well. You can check out the full series on Artur Pawlowski there. Hey, how's it going? Selene Galas here with Rebel News. If you were following along with any of my live tweeting today, then you know that I was in court following one of Pastor Artur Pawlowski's court cases. For the viewers who are new to the Pastor Art beat, he's been charged for feeding the homeless, arrested in multiple high-profile takedowns for chasing inspectors out of his church services, and held for weeks for giving a sermon to lock down resisting truckers at the Coots blockade. He was given a compelled speech in some Orwellian COVID kangaroo court. The full force of the COVID deep state has been brought down on him. Head on over to saveartur.com to make a donation today to help fund the legal battles that are ahead of him. Pastor Artur's defense lawyer, Sarah Miller, goes in depth to explain more about his court proceedings following the charges, where he has thousands surely in legal fees to come. Now, the allegations this time were for a cause of disturbance, not wearing a mask contrary to the bylaw at the time, as well as trespassing. Now, I'd like to let you know that the allegations for trespassing and not wearing a mask contrary to the bylaw were both dropped, and he was found not guilty on the charge for cause of disturbance. So I'm here to speak with Sarah Miller, which is Artur Pawlowski's defense lawyer, as well as Artur Pawlowski, obviously, to go a little bit more in depth on the court proceedings from today and some court proceedings that we'll be covering in the future.
Mr. Pawlowski in December of 2021 received a notice to come and pick up a package at the Canada Post office at Westbrook Mall. When he did that, there was a disagreement, I guess, at the store as to whether or not they would serve him or if he was banned from the store. What we heard today was that they did not actually communicate a banning of the store prior to that date, and that there was no trespass. So originally, Mr. Pawlowski was charged with a trespass offense under the Trespass to Premises Act and for not wearing a mask. Both of those were withdrawn immediately at the beginning of today's trial. And then the third charge was cause of disturbance. It was a criminal charge. And what we heard from today was that Mr. Pawlowski was talking to others in the store, and that he was argumentative, was the word that we heard from the witness today. So obviously talking with others in the store, disagreeing with others in a public place, that's not criminal. The court agreed with our submissions and found Mr. Pawlowski not guilty.
And how does it feel? Because I looked over at you immediately and there was a huge smile on your face. So congrats on that.
I still keep it. Well, I'm so happy. God blessed me with the best lawyer on earth. And with you guys, with the supporters, without you, I would not be able to stand tall. So thank you so much for the Rebel viewers and for you, reporters. You're the only reporter here that is actually willing to report the other side of the story, to let the public know what's really going on. Like I said so many times, right now we don't have reporters in the mainstream media. We have cooks, and they're terrible cooks. Don't eat what they're serving.
Head on over to saveartur.com to make a donation today to help fund the legal battles that are ahead of him. Now, you're also eligible for a tax-deductible receipt with that donation as well. You can check out the full series on Artur Pawlowski there.
So I'm very happy. It's an amazing time, in history, because I think we're winning the ground. We're winning the hearts of the people, and those decisions are showing to the whole world that finally, justice is happening in a court system. Wow. Again, another victory that restores that hope that it's not all lost, that we can go back to normal, where the rule of law rules, where there is Charter of Rights and Freedoms and Criminal Code of Canada. We've lost that for a few years. This judgment proves again that there's some good God and law-fearing judges that are willing to rule based on the evidence. And that's what this man did. This judge is a real judge. He looked at the evidence and he saw that this whole thing was a political garbage. That's what it was. I have become a religious and political prisoner, and some are seeing it to what this whole thing is all about. And pray for me, please. I still have 3 more trials as we go, and the big one in February, the Coots trial for me daring to talk to the truck convoy, telling them to stand the ground and do it lawfully and peacefully. But hey, hold on to your rights, because those rights are yours and your children. So I'm very happy. Another victory. I'm looking forward to more victories. And hey, Canada, our beloved Canada, we are standing on guard for thee.
The background to this and that got out in the evidence today is that Mr. Pawlowski had been at the store before. He doesn't wear a mask. He's got a medical exemption, but that they had some sort of argument about that back in February of 2021. So what the court very aptly noticed right away was that this is not about masking. Even though there's a masking ticket laid initially, that's withdrawn right away. This is not about masking. What this is about is whether or not Mr. Pawlowski can go into the store and interact with people in a certain way, and whether or not that becomes criminal. Mm-hmm. And there is certainly no evidence today as to criminal behavior. The narrative kind of shifted, for sure. It's a bit of a moving target, but the charge requires that there be shouting or yelling or insulting or offensive language being used, right? That's part 1 of the test. And there was no evidence of that. And then that language has to cause a disturbance in the public use of a premises, right? The ordinary use of it. And so even though there was no shouting, right? There was no evidence of that. There certainly not on the balance or on the burden of proof that the Crown has, which is beyond.
Yeah, there was none.
There was none.
There was nothing.
Even if there was that in and of itself, right? The case law is very clear. I can go outside and start yelling and screaming and whatever, and I certainly could find some people downtown Calgary that are doing that, but doing that in and of itself is not criminal. You need to cause a disturbance so that other people cannot use the public property that you are around in the same manner, right? Which is very high burden. This charge isn't used that regularly in a full trial and prosecution, because it's very hard to say that yelling and screaming caused an inability to use that property. And in this case, the property continued to be used just as it would be. People were in line for the post office. They were attending the store. Mr. Pawlowski, exchanged some words with another customer about whether or not, they should be wearing a mask or he had to be wearing a mask, which, as we all know, based on what was heard today, it didn't matter about the mask. It had nothing to do with why they were refusing service. So Mr. Pawlowski still has a 5-day trial in November regarding breach of probation charges, him and his brother David. Regarding a probation that, as your viewers might remember, the Court of Appeal struck. There was no contempt last year. The finding of contempt was wrong, and the Court of Appeal struck that finding of contempt, and therefore all the sanctions that flowed from it. And so the breach of probation charges, we have asked the Crown to withdraw based on, a fairness of the circumstances. They've not responded substantively to that request. We still have 5 days of trial in November just for fighting probation charges, breach of probation charges that should never have been laid in the first place if the decision at the Court of Queen's Bench had been made correctly. We also have a trial in February that engages large constitutional issues regarding the Critical Infrastructure Defence Act and mischief charge, with the Crown has indicated that they're seeking substantive amounts of jail time against Mr. Pawlowski. They'll be working with Mr. Haggerty.
Also, let's not forget about $100,000 ticket for me doing the unthinkable, feeding the poor in the biggest crisis that this country has ever seen. So that trial is in December, additional 2 or 3 days the Crown requested. So regarding the probation charges, that makes me very sad, because it should not be a brainer. It should be dropped on the spot and just allow me to move on with my life and just stop it.
Head on over to saveartur.com to make a donation today to help fund the legal battles that are ahead of him. Now, you're also eligible for a tax-deductible receipt with that donation as well. You can check out the full series on Artur Pawlowski there.